Insurance claims are often seen as an uphill battle filled with delays, administrative hurdles, and communication gaps. How can employers transform this critical moment of truth for their employees into a seamless experience that builds trust in insurance as a true safeguard? Welcome to Policybazaar for Business Show, partnered by AT Now. I'm Kavita Thapliyal, and today we are diving deep into the common pitfalls of claims management and discovering innovative solutions that are transforming the insurance experience for organizations and their workforce. Joining me in this conversation, I have Anvith Murthy, Senior Vice President, People and Culture, Rapido; Nikhil Chopra, CBO, Medi Assist; Sajja Praveen Chowdary, Director and Head Policybazaar for Business. All right, welcome to this very special edition today. And let me begin with you, Anvith, because we really want to understand the right now feel that is there among the corporate insurance claim, because we are well versed about the retail side, but then when we talk about penetration, we talk about the ground reality. What's the current status? And, if I just want to compare it with pre and post-COVID period also, if there is any data or any comparison that we can talk about.
Yeah, when it comes to insurance, especially from employee standpoint, right, it's a very high impact and low frequency kind of touch point with respect to employee experience. What that means is employees, not all of the employees go through, avail insurance, but at the same time, when they do, at the time of critical moments, it becomes very important that they get the best possible experience in that place, right? And definitely, one of the challenges that we have seen in our organization, or through my experiences, the lack of awareness with respect to the policies, what actually is under the policy, what is it covered, what is not covered under the policy. That is one of the issues, and that leads to negative experience for
despite
people.
You running all kind of employee programs.
Yes, that is right. No matter how many programs you do in terms of explaining the rationale, explaining the what is covered, what is not covered as part of the policy, but still people actually they just want just-in-time information. Most of the employees prefer that way. And what happens is, and also that leads to dissatisfaction, because they expect that these will be covered as part of insurance and these are not covered.
Yeah.
That is one of the things. The second thing is in terms of lack of transparency, because if you don't, they go for a reimbursement, claim a reimbursement as such, and then, they don't know the status of their claims. Again, actually, there is a lot of paperwork that would be there. That is definitely one of the challenges in terms of lack of transparency as such.
All right, so let's just take this forward, Nikhil. Now, what has been your experience with the corporates so far? Are you in tune with what Anvith has to say? And also industry-wise, how is the trend looking?
No, I completely agree with what Anvith is saying. I think the reality is that if we were having this conversation 4 years back, we would be discussing something very different, and today we'd be discussing very different.
Like what?
Like Anvith said, I think the first and foremost thing was in terms of the speed and the time taken to actually process claims. The technologies that were available in terms of being able to let members understand what the status of their claims are, what the requirements are, what their benefit structures are, right? From the outside, it looks like claims is just about processing a claim. But there's a whole bunch of steps that actually are involved for a member to access their benefits, then consume the benefits, and then feel the outcomes of that benefit or policy that they've purchased. And I think as an industry, for the longest period of time, we didn't do enough to get people to understand these processes, right? However, right now, the first thing about getting people to even appreciate what benefits exist, today we're using very, very different methods to be able to do that, right? There's bots that actually answer queries. There are enrollment engines that allow for people to truly understand their benefits. We break down the benefits in a structure that is easily consumable. But let's also be honest. For people like us who are in the industry, we understand terms and conditions. I'll give you one example, right? Proportionate deduction. Now, you ask a layman what proportionate deduction means, you're probably not going to get an answer of knowledge, right? It basically means that if you are allowed a certain kind of room category and you choose to avail that benefit in a different room category, because billing structures change, the amount of approvals that will be given will be different. Now, it's difficult to explain.
Just write in this language.
Exactly.
It's easier.
Exactly. So we are, as an industry, we are trying to do a whole bunch of things. Number one, with the likes of entities like Policybazaar, we're trying to simplify policy structures, right? So that it becomes easy for people to actually appreciate what is covered. We, as a TPA and a benefits administrator, we are also then trying to get these simplified processes and bring that back to members in a layman's language so that they can understand it. Then we're kind of trying very hard to allow for information and informed decision making to be made by the member. So we assist individuals to understand, basis their benefits, what is probably the kind of network you should choose? What is the difference between a cashless claim and a reimbursement claim? What are the time consumed between cashless and reimbursement claims? Now, the good thing is that we've reached a point where today, as Medi Assist as an entity, today roughly about 70% of all claims, cashless claims, get approved within 30 minutes, right? If we met 4 years back, the average used to be 3.5 hours, right? Now, this, like Anvith said, is basis a lot of technology being used. A lot of all stakeholders coming together, hospitals coming together, insurance companies coming together, TPAs kind of bringing it all together. And hence speed is improved, accuracy has improved, and the ability to appreciate what benefits exist and understand the policies has also improved. I'll end with just one statement. Interestingly, even today, the 80% of the calls that come to us while a claim is being processed is really about saying, listen, I have a 5 lakh sum insured. My bill is 1.5 lakhs. Why am I still being asked to pay 20,000 rupees? Right? Which is really a lack of understanding of the policy benefits and policy coverages, which is a gap that we are trying to fill. And maybe during the conversations, we'll get into some specifics of how, as an industry, we are moving.
Filling the gap question is actually for you now, because you need to take this forward, because you really pointed out key structures which are changing now fundamentally. What is the industry looking at? But then what kind of a role is Policybazaar actually playing up in filling all these gaps?
See, I think, I've taken from what Anvith and Nikhil said, right? One important thing that just Anvith said is just-in-time information. So I think despite whatever information that you kind of keep floating in advance, or you make it available at various sources, it always happens that the employee at that point of time when the hospitalization comes in is when they really get into the details, and they really don't want to look at it. Like, again, there's no it's not really wrong also, I would say, because as Anvith said, it's a very low frequency. If there are about 100 employees who are there in the organization, probably about 6 to 7 employees are going to end up claiming in a year. That's low. That low is what the frequency is. So you're expecting 100 people to kind of read through what is there for, probably a chance of 6% in a year of you getting hospitalized is very low, right? And hence the reason the employees don't tend to kind of go through it. So what we've done over a period of time, over last couple of years or 3 years, I would say, is that we've been able to ensure that this just-in-time mechanism is available through various modes. Now, earlier it was, kind of available either in the form of a handbook, which would go to employees in the form of email, which obviously would lie in the email somewhere, right? And then there was a portal where the employee could log in and check also. Now, whether it's about e-card, whether it's about anything that you speak about. Now, what we've said is, can't this also move on to WhatsApp bot over a period of time, like with the bots been coming into picture? So all that you have to do is you send a hi, whether you're sitting at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the night in the hospital, or you're just getting to hospital. At 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, you just say a hi, and then you have the options there. Whether it's e-card, you want to download e-card, whether you want to understand your policy better, like the way Nikhil said, which is basically about getting into the details to understand what is your room rent, which is available and all, right? And anything else, which is in terms of, any other assistance that you need beyond that, in terms of, whether it's about, understanding network hospitals or whichever it is. So whichever point it is, whether it's someone who wants it on email, that's there. Someone who wants it on the portal, it's there. But for those who, want this just-in-time kind of thing, there's an app, then generally an employee wellness app, which we kind of provide to corporates it's there as part of it for those who are tech savvy, and it's clearly there. And the other part is it's there on WhatsApp. Now, what we're trying to do to ensure that more and more people come onto these platforms is primarily by, as we discussed in earlier episodes as well, we're trying to bring in everything into the same platform, which will ensure that there is more participation. For example, let's assume tomorrow there's an app where there's only e-card, for example. I'm just giving an example, e-card or only related to claim kind of thing. And then there's one more app which is for wellness. And let's say there's one more app which is related to your, say, GPA, group personal accident, or a group term life. or let's assume some other thing that you're doing with the employees, which is basically, for example, some people have some other wellness related sessions with physiotherapy and other stuff, whichever, all of those include kind of thing, right? Now, we're speaking about bringing all of that into similar kind of same platform, I would say, which would ensure that where your regular employee health policy, wellness, or a group term life benefits, or a group personal accident benefits, and anything else that the corporate does, whatever kind of engagement things that you do, kind of, or
One-stop destination
whether
for
value,
everything.
so all of that being in a singular platform, ensure that the platform is used more, or is known more to employees, kind of thing. That ensures that you're able to, you need not call someone and then be frustrated someone has not taken your call, or someone has not responded timely, or that information is only half baked, kind of, because it's humanly impossible, right, that someone would also answer immediately and then give you exactly the answer what you want without checking back, right? So that's what we've done, kind of. We may ensure that the platform is available at the fingertips, kind of just in time, and with all the information available. That's one part. The second part is about how do you kind of make it more user friendly. That's what we've been able to kind of, I think we would have done some part of it, and I'm sure, like the way, I think one of the example that Nikhil has taken, right? Proportional reduction is a wonderful example to say a word which is, which we normally would say it could be easily understandable, but then yes, for a common person, it's not. I think we've done to an extent in terms of making it slightly simpler in terms of what category of rooms are covered, what room rent value is covered, wherever it's, at times what happens is whichever is lower is the condition which is there. Then can you explain it in a specific category rather than saying whichever is lower, to be specific to it so that it's easily understandable, right? But I think we can do slightly more better, probably. That's what it is.
So more thrust is on technology advancements and the way we can use technology to make it simpler to the employees. What are you doing at your workplace then?
Yeah, I mean, exactly, like employee experience, it is at the core of, building that trust with the company, loyalty, retention, everything, right? And at Rapido, like our average age is 28, and most of them are quite tech savvy. And I've also worked in traditional setup, like in my previous experiences, where there were claims that will be done on email. We would do onboarding sessions to just explain the policy, what is covered, what is not covered. Even the network of hospitals, like we would give the Excel sheets.
Right.
And it's too much of data for somebody who's coming in to consume, and so on and so forth. Now, with the advancement of technology, what has happened is everything is available at fingertips. There is an app where you can go and look at, what is my policy, what is covered, what is not covered. They go look at the network of hospitals. Is this hospital under cashless, or is it through claim reimbursement? Then they go back, and even people can check on, I can do a claim online. I don't have to do a lot of paperwork. There's already data that has been fed. So the data flows into the form. Then actually all you have to do is just upload the bills. Earlier, you would take the physical original bills and you would send it through courier. And then you don't know what happened to those bills. Then you will get an email telling that, it has been declined or rejected, or it has been approved. Suddenly one day, either the money comes or you get the mail that it has been rejected. You don't know this status. You don't know the reason for rejection as well. So now with the technology, like people can track the status, and there is an escalation call. Like if I don't get, if it is rejected, I can raise an appeal. I can call up people. I can chat with the customer support, asking what is the reason for rejection. So the more power has gone to the employee, more transparency has come in, and it is kind of an empowerment for the employee as well. And it gives a great experience. And it leads to trusting the organization. You have provided insurance, and I'm able to know what are the do's and don'ts, what is covered, what is not covered. It's all in black and white. Now I know the status of the claim. If it is rejected, there is a rationale behind it, and still you can appeal for it. So there is a lot of autonomy and a great experience for sure.
That's the point that I want you to explain. So once your claim is rejected, then how can you make an appeal, and how can you go ahead with it then?
So just taking a step back, I think as a philosophy, as a benefits administrator, I think it's understanding our member is the most important, right? And one thing very clearly we understand is the fact that when a claim is being raised, it's not necessarily the most happiest moment, right? It's probably one of the most toughest moments, apart from maybe, let's say, a birth situation where there is a lot of happiness associated. So through the whole journey, empathy is extremely important, right? And one thing very clear is that having the ability of making people understand what decisions have been taken in the adjudication process becomes that much more important to kind of allow for some amount of empathetic engagement to take place with the member. The last thing you want is for the member to be running helter-skelter for financial related aspects. So with that background, let me highlight very clearly that there is no excitement or interest for any stakeholder within this industry to deny a claim, right? However, it is a financial instrument at the end of the day, which entities underwrite risk for. And there are certain policy terms and conditions that are built in that allow for a certain premium to be charged from a member. And we as a benefits administrator are responsible to ensure that the right consumption as per the policy terms and conditions take place. Now, there are various reasons why a claim would get rejected. One of them, for instance, would be to say that if it is an accident that has taken place under the influence of alcohol, the policy very clearly states that that will not be covered because it is something that could have been controlled and an individual did not necessarily take necessary care, right? So in those scenarios, again, hospitals pass information, we process, and then we may choose to reject the claim. Another scenario could be that in retail policies, for example, it says that there is a waiting period before which you cannot consume the benefit. It could be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, depending on what you've purchased. Now, unfortunately, if there is a claim that comes within that time period, as per the policy terms and conditions, it cannot be approved, right? So, like this, we reject. There are multiple processes. One of the processes that we as Medi Assist are initiating, for example, is to actually say, before the decision is finally taken, we are going to pass on information to the member saying, this is the decision as per our policy terms and conditions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Right? And they can click a button if they choose to get more information. And then we actually connect with that member and explain why exactly, albeit that the approval letters or the rejection letters carry all the information as to what exactly was the clause for denial, because the regulator has mandated saying that you have to choose a clause as per the policy terms and conditions and highlight that to the member as to why the denial takes place. Like I said, it's not that the person is unclear as to why the claim is denied, but the details in that is where somebody may not necessarily appreciate, right? So there are avenues, like I just said. There is an avenue, especially in corporate structures, because there is a governance structure in place, because there are entities like Policybazaar as broking partners to the corporates that exist, that the member can escalate through the escalation matrix and say, I disagree, or I would like further information. And then the insurer, along with the broker, comes back to the TPA and we discuss and we explain, right? The last area is where the regulator says that you can raise a formal grievance and you can address that to the regulator. The regulator picks that up along with the insurance company, and there are specific timelines within which the industry has to come together to respond back to the regulator. So these are
not talking about the ombudsman over here, or are we?
It moves to the ombudsman after there is a disagreement, even in that grievance being handled, and that's
so even for corporate insurance that can be done.
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's typically how a member can consume or access a redressal pertaining to a rejection.
So has there been instances where corporates have come up to you and said that why this kind of a claim structure? I just want something different for myself, or conversations on customizing the claim structure plan?
See, absolutely. So there were different scenarios which, when the policies come up for renewal, that's the time when you also discuss, the corporates also discuss, if there's something that they would want to change, because once a policy is live and active, you might not be able to change the terms and conditions most of the times, right? So if you want to do something, then obviously, we do a review at the year end, or, we do a quarterly review anyways. And at the year end, we conclude with whatever reviews that we would have done and whatever escalations would have come during the year, or any kind of problems that would have been faced during the year. Sometimes, as Anvith said earlier, there were times when, there's a physical copy which is required and you have to courier. So today there are definitely there are companies, different insurers have different policies in terms of their processes, right? So we put that in front of the in the client as well, that this is the process which is available. These insurers would give you without the need of physical documents, which means everything can be done online kind of thing. Whereas this insurer might give you other benefits in terms of cost and other advantages, but then they would need a physical bill. So that's how it is. So then it's a trade-off kind of a thing, right? The second thing that would happen is generally there are there's a benchmarking that's done, and there is a analysis that's done on the claims that have gone out in the previous year. For example, one of the things that we definitely do every year with our clients when it is about to be up for renewal, or whenever we do quarterly reviews with our clients, is that we present with them what are the limits that they have. Let's assume they have X limit for each and everything. For example, maternity C-section is, let's say, 75,000 and normal delivery is about, say, 50,000. Now, how many people have claimed beyond that? Which means, they would have had to spend from their pocket. What percentage is it? Is it, just 50% of the employees who are going for maternity claim had to spend something out of the pocket, or only 10% of employees? So that, then you're able to take a decision basis that when it's up for renewal, that whether you want to increase it or you want to keep it there and then. The second thing is similarly with, let's say, any kind of a capped ailments. Like, for example, in case of something like, for example, a cataract or a knee replacement surgery kind of, there are certain ailments where there are cappings that are there in some of the policies. Now,
even in corporate insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it depends on corporate to corporate, right? Whether they want to cap it or whether they want to keep it uncapped, right? If you keep it uncapped, there are two things that would happen. One, obviously, the employees also would want to go to the, they need not restrict themselves to any kind of hospital or any kind of treatment. Then it can be anything. The second thing, at times, what we've seen where there are no cappings is some hospitals or some providers do take advantage of that as well, in terms of having the bills and placed in such a way kind of thing, right? Because you do not really say this is the only cost. They can charge whatever it is, right? So hence, again, coming back to it. So we do analysis of that as well to say how many claims have come in that category and how many are outside of capping, or how much amount has been paid as per the capping, and should something be done about it. And the other important metric that we see is what is the payout ratio, which means if 100 rupees is what's been spent by the employee, what has been paid back to the employee, which means is it 70, is it 80, is it 90, which means that will tell you what is the percentage of amount that the employee is bearing from their pocket kind of. Okay. And then broken down into why and what. Again, at times it might be because the sum insurer is exhausted and hence they had to bear it from the pocket. That might be a reason also. Hence we have that breakup and we discuss this in detail to figure out what is that you have to do next year kind of, or what is the kind of call that you can take next year.
Right. And more demand is for the cashless or reimbursement?
It's definitely very clear that cashless is something that the industry as well as members choose. The regulator has also pushed very hard in terms of saying that we should move towards 100% cashless. Now, interestingly, at Medi Assist, we've been working very hard to get this to move. Going back to our first question, if we met 3 years back, the number was like 50% cashless and 50% reimbursement. Today, from a value standpoint, we've hit about 80%, 85% of all claims being cashless. That has happened because of the network that has been created, but importantly, the experience that can be given. One thing that we've been working on, which is future-proofing, is to allow for informed decision by prediction. And today, we have a system that if a member intimates saying that they're going to X hospital for Y procedure, our system will let them know, taking into account their policy terms and conditions, that this is probably the total cost. This is how much will get covered by the insurance company, and this is what you'll have to pay out of pocket upfront. It leads to lesser grievances. It leads to letting the person know that they're going to be rejected in terms of the claim prior to the procedure, and hence allows them to be able to plan better. But importantly, it also allows, and this is something that I'm sure Anvith will appreciate, it allows people to understand that proportionate deduction piece, saying that if you went to room category A, your out-of-pocket was 15,000 rupees, but if you chose room category B, your out-of-pocket is actually only 10,000 rupees. Now decide which one you want to go to. So this helps everybody before the grievance actually coming in, and that's something that we've been trying to do.
All right, with that, it gets me to the end of the show also. Thank you so much for being on this show today and for having this lovely discussion with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, our special feature of the Policybazaar for Business show partnered by ET now comes to a close. Thank you so much for watching.